Hi everyone, Jacqueline here, and I am going to be doing my Milestone 4 video for my game programming class. Essentially what we're doing is just finishing up the game, adding some polish, and getting all of our weapons, display, our life, pausing the game, and doing weighted drops for your enemies. So I'm going to go over all of that. And tell you guys how it works. So let's get started. First, I want to show that all my stuff from Milestone 1, 2, and 3 are still in the game. So I guess I'm going to maximize this for you guys just so you can see it better. I can move the camera tracks with the player. I have a health UI, you guys can see up here in the top left hand corner of the screen, and as I take damage that does update, so let me run into this dude. You'll see that I'm losing health. There's that. And then I can also gain health. Let me go onto my health pack here and just set the lifespan amount to maybe 30 seconds instead, so I have time to show you, because it is set at 10 seconds right now. And I did that for previous ones because it was easier to show off. Okay, so I have about half life now. I go into the health and it boosts me up by maybe a quarter. Alright, so that's in there. I can take damage. Oh yeah, so I can die. When I die, I'm going to respawn with 1 less life. That's something that we did, I think, for this milestone. So here they see I have 2 lives here now, and I've spawned back at the middle, no guns, whatever. Cool. And I'm going to grab this gun and then just die, because I'm going to show you that when I die with the gun, it becomes unequipped, and you just start back at the middle. I am going to update it so it does stay equipped. The issue that I was having was when I did die and I reset everything, the animations were no longer holding the gun, so it's something I need to fix, but for now I'm just going to have it so it remains unequipped. Alright, and I'll talk more about that later. I can equip weapons, which you just saw. This is the enemy stuff. Okay, so enemies are going to spawn over time. They're going to navigate towards me and be able to attack me. And then when the enemy dies, they will get little ragdoll on death, so they'll play their death animation, and then they're going to be destroyed after a short delay. So I can show you how my enemies work. And this is all stuff from the previous milestones. Just resume. Okay, there we go. It was a little laggy there. So here's my enemy. I'll show you that he can attack. So he's hitting me, and then he follows me when I run further away from him, and then of course that he dies. Oh, his animation did that. Okay, so the main thing with that issue, and I know why it's occurring, is it's not giving it time to play its animation. So a solution that I found was to add an animation event on their death animation, or on their death animation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into his animations, find his death animation, and then what I am going to do is add an animation event. So what you do, how you do that is you just you go to the animation that you want, you click on it, it'll show up in your inspector. Then under events, you can add an event. So what you want to do is figure out where you want your event to be, so probably right there for me. Then click this little button here that's a little an arrow with a plus next to it. So click that. It's going to add the event to the time that you're on. Then you can name your event. So I'm going to call it end of death, I guess. End of death. Okay, so then you hit apply, and then on a script that is on that game object that has the animator, you can go ahead and just add the function. So copy that. I'm going to go to the enemy or I guess the pawn script. Yeah, we'll do the pawn script. And I'm gonna create a public void end of death. And this is just gonna be, we'll create a boolean. So public bool, because we need to access this from a different script. And death animation, or is death animation. So death anim done. And we're going to set that to true here. Right, so is death anim done equals true. And then what we can do in the health script, where it actually kills him, is before we destroy him, we are going to say go dot get component pawn. Is that what I was on? Yeah. That is death anim done equals oh no, we're gonna say if it's done. So sorry. So if it is done, we're going to destroy the game object. And then this should get us back to having him ragdoll before he gets deleted. Alright, let's try it again. Should work now. Okay, so let me go kill him. Oh, yep, and now whoa. So he played his death animation and then he died and he dropped a whole bunch of stuff. So it's not my intention for him to drop all of that. My guess is that it's because where it is dropping the item, we'll just, we're gonna put that in here so it only does it once, because it is calling it like a bunch of times. So let's see if that fixes that. So this is just going into where the requirements are to destroy the game object. The requirements also to drop an item is that the death animation has to be a finished playing, which is all we really updated there. So he only drops one item. Yes, perfect. Instead of having dropped like 20. Cool. So anyway, then we have that in there. So he drops, so he can attack player, he ragdolls on death, and then he's destroyed. And a new one spawns after delay, and I totally forgot to check that before I turned it off. So let's go kill this dude again, now that that's working properly. So he dies, and then a new one spawns. Bam. Okay, so everything from Milestone 1, 2, and 3 are still in. And so now we're going to go on to the new stuff. So I did talk about the health count. So we have our health is displayed, and that's been displayed since Milestone 1 or 2. And also we have the lives remaining for the player, and then the game ends after you've used all 3 lives. So because this isn't a build, this is still in Unity, you can't actually have it like quit application, but instead I created a game over panel, game over UI, to indicate that the game has ended once you die. So I'm just going to run into this thing like a bunch of times. I could probably update this to just kill me instantly. That would probably be better. So we play our death animation, and then we respawn. So, oh, here, yeah. Also, you see that we have 2 lives now instead of 3. I'm going to do it again. Okay, we die. And then, yep, now we have 1 life indicated up here in the top right-hand corner of our screen. So let's die one more time, and then we should be able to get a game over screen. So we die. Now we have the game over screen. So the game has ended now that we have died 3 times. So that's indicated there. And then let me show you how that works in code. So I did all of this from the game manager for the most part. I've updated my game manager to have a section for player attributes, and this is where we have our life count, we have the UI images for the number of lives that we have, as well as our, so all this other stuff isn't actually for the life part, but we will talk about those more in a little bit. So we have those things that pertain to our life count and how many lives we have. So in our update function down here, we just check to see how many lives the player have. So if they have 3 lives, we're going to enable all of those UIs to be true. All of those are going to be visible. We have 3 lives. If we only have 2 lives, then we turn one of them off. And we're going to turn them off in order from left to right. And then so continuing on, if we have 1 life, then 2 of them are turned off, 1 of them's on. And then if we have no lives left, we're going to turn all of them off, and then we're going to end the game. And that's just a function that's down here, and it does the game over screen that you saw, and then if it was in a build, it would quit the application. Ideally, we'll probably change this to go back to main menu so the player can then choose if they want to play again, or have it be able to be played again from the game over screen. But this application quit is just to give some feedback to the player that the game has ended if it's in build. But we'll update that as we go. Anyway, moving on, we need to see where the life count is getting set. So that's actually getting set from the health script. So both the player and the enemy have life scripts, or health scripts, and this dictates whether or not like they're gonna get taking damage away from their health count, or they're gonna add health to their health count when getting a pickup. So what we're gonna do here is in our take damage script, or not script, method, here we go, take damage, if the pawn is the player, so if the person who has the script on them is the player, then we're going to
I'm gonna go potty too, Mama.
hang on, I think it actually did it in the kill script, so yeah, I did do it in the kill script. So essentially, if this would kill them, so if their current health minus damage would be less than or equal to 0, we're gonna play the animation for our death. So this is why we're setting health to equal to be 0, and then when this plays, so when this gets called, it's gonna play the death animation, which I will show you here. Player animator. So it just is going to call this here. This is our death animation. You can see that if health is less than this, it's gonna play that. And then we're gonna go to our death animation, because that is where the event is being called that we need to kill the player, because we didn't want it to happen until after the player has died, right? So on here I have an event, and it just, here it is, the event, and it calls the kill function. It does this for both the enemy and the player. So it calls the kill function. The kill function is on the health script here, so it passes in the name of the game object that we want to affect, which, so basically we're gonna have a new object. We're gonna call it go for game object, and we're just going to find the game object with the tag that was passed in. And I tried to get it to pass an object, but it doesn't like to do it with the prefabs. It wants to do it from an object that is in the scene at the moment that you're trying to call the function. So instead of passing in the object, I just passed in the string of the tag that it has, and then we're going to find the game object ourselves, because essentially we'd have to do the same thing either way. This I think was a bit easier and a little bit straightforward to me. Anyway, so if the game object that we just found has the player component, we're going to subtract the number of lives from the player lives variable in the game manager. Then we're going to set our player game object to be inactive, so we're going to turn it off so you can't see it. We're going to set its current health back to whatever the initial health is supposed to be. We're going to set the health in the animation, so in the animator, so whatever value our actual health is, that's going to have the same value. And that will be updated as the player loses health, so that way it'll instantly call the player death animation as soon as it hits like less than 0.01. And then we're going to transform the player back to origin, so that's at 0, 0, 0 in the world. That's where they're starting the game from, so that's where we're putting them back to. And then we're going to unequip their weapon, just because, like I said, I was having issues with getting their IK and their animation to play. Well, not so much the IK, just getting that animation set back up. So like, oh, you died and you had this equipped, play this animation. That should be fairly easy to fix. I just haven't done it yet. So I'm going to do this for the time being, just because it makes it look better. It's a little bit easier. And then we're going to turn the game object back to true, so we can now see the player. So they got reset, and now we can start playing again. Cool. So that's how that takes away the player lives and resets the player, so we can start playing again. Okay, let's see what our next thing is. Oh, our weapon display. So this is fairly easy, straightforward, a lot of UI stuff. I decided to kind of go like a Borderlands type feel for this UI, and I could show you this one. So this has like an indication of how much ammo you have, and also the type of weapon that you're firing. So they have like 5 different weapons class, like shotgun, machine gun, pistol, rocket launcher, whatever, and they have this indicator here what type of weapon it is. So I wanted to do something similar. Instead of showing the exact weapon, instead I wanted to do like just the weapon type as well. So on my UI, you'll see down here that it has the icons, which I borrowed from online, and they're definitely not mine. And just, here we go. So there's that. I'll play the game and you can kind of see how it works, because those are sitting on top of each other. They're in the same location. So when the player equips a weapon, it goes, oh, okay, you're doing machine gun weapon type, and it shows the weapon type here next to the amount of ammo that you have. And then as the player shoots, it updates the amount of ammo that they have here. And let's see if we can get a machine gun to drop. It's gonna drop on top, okay. Now I have the pistol equipped. See if it drops the machine gun. No, it dropped a health. Oh. Let's see. So the weight it drops actually, okay, here we go. And now I have the machine gun. So as you see, we equip the pistol, it changes to the pistol. We equip the machine gun, it changes back to the machine gun. See if we can get another one to drop. Yep, see, there we go. What I need to do is make it update the amount of ammo they have. They always start with full ammo when you equip a new gun. But that's something that we could do for another day. So how this works in code is in the game manager, we have our different attributes for our different guns. So we have pistol attributes, we have machine gun attributes, and we're just checking every frame to see which gun we have equipped. So if we have the machine gun equipped, we're going to show, we're going to calculate the percent of ammo that it has for the fill amount, because that is a 0 to 1 scale. So we're dividing our current magazine capacity by the maximum capacity. So however many bullets we have currently in the magazine divided by how many bullets it can hold, maximum. And then we're going, so that calculates the ammo percent. So then we're going to set our fill amount. So the fill bar on our canvas, which is here, so under ammo, we have our ammo background, and we have our ammo fill, and this is set to be, the image type is set to be filled horizontal, and it fills from the left to the right. So when you take it away, it moves to the left. So we're setting this, so since it's a 0 to 1 scale, we're setting the percent to be, 0.9, 0.8, whatever. as it calculates, and then we're setting the text on that box. So the current mag text, which is the first text box. So we have our current mag, so this is this number, this is the first number, and then we have our divider thing, and then we have our max mag, and this is the second number. So we set the text of the current mag to whatever our current magazine is holding, and then our max to whatever the maximum of that magazine is. And this updates continuously on each frame. And then we're also setting the icon to be true. So the machine gun, if we have the machine gun equipped, it's going to set the machine gun icon to be enabled. And then if we don't have the machine gun equipped, then it's not going to be enabled, which is here. This is what are happening in our false. Okay, same thing for the pistol. We calculate what our current magazine percent is, then we set the ammo fill amount to be equal to that, so it's always updating as you're shooting. And then we're setting the text to be however many bullets you have divided by the number of the maximum capacity. So you know, so the player will know how many bullets they have left before they need to get more. Cool beans. So that's that. That is working. Sweet. Also, we have to do our pausing our game. So I think I showcased this a little bit. I didn't really talk about it when it occurred. But if you press escape, it pauses the game. You'll see that here. Oh shoot, I gotta move further away from it. Oh, never mind. Let me start over. So our health, you see that the particle effect going around it is going in a circle and it's continuously doing it. But when I pause the game, it doesn't do it, so it stops rotating. Also, the player can't move, so pause the game, press all the move keys, the player can't move, the camera doesn't follow, and then we'll also show off the enemy, so I'll run in front of the enemy, so he's like walking, okay, and then pause the game, he becomes paused as well, his animation stops, he can't move. If I unpause, you'll see that he continues to come after me. So everything's paused. I can't shoot, but if I do shoot, let me get a gun. Okay, so we'll shoot, and then you'll see that the bullets actually stop traveling. You can see that here. Everything becomes paused, and then if I resume, it gets reset to work. So I have that. And I'll show you how that works in here. I just have a boolean called game paused, which is here. And essentially what we do is if we press the, where is it? In our update function, we have if we press the escape key and game paused equals false, we're going to call this pause game function. Otherwise, we're going to unpause the game. So you can actually unpause the game by pressing escape again, or you could press the button to resume. I just left it so it would work for both ways. A lot of games do that, and I think that it's a bit better. But here for our pause game, we have setting our pause game boolean equal to be true. So that way we know that the game is paused. We're setting the pause menu to be active, and then we're setting our time scale to be 0. And that's going to stop anything that you're doing in the game that is being multiplied by times.delta time. If you're using a time scale anywhere in your game, so like for movement, if you're saying move this far times time.delta time, so it's moving this far per second, it's going to actually pause that. It's going to say, oh, okay, you're not doing this. Our time scale is 0, time is frozen. But if you're not using time.delta time to move things, so let's say you're just multiplying by like a speed value, it will not pause the game. If you set it to if you set time.time scale equal to 0, it will not do it at all. So everything that we're using in this game is on a time scale. A lot of things are using time.delta time. The bullets using time.delta time. I guess animator would be, and pretty much everything is using time.delta time. So when we set our time scale to 0, it effectively pauses the game. And then when we unpause, so here we're setting our pause game, so our unpause function, which gets called when you press the resume button or if you press the escape key again. So it unpauses the game. It says pause game equals false. Then we set our pause menu back to inactive, so we can't see it. And then we set our time scale back to 1. So 1 equals regular time, 0.5 equals like half time. If you set it like to 2, it's double time. But we're going to set back to 1 because we just want it per second. We want our seconds to correspond to real life seconds instead of not so real seconds. Like in The Sims, they use a multiplied time scale. So like if we did that in Unity, I think every 24 minutes is a day. So there'd have to be some math there, but you would set that to a higher time scale so it goes faster. So that's kind of how timescale works and how we're using it here to pause and unpause the game. Okay, then our game pause balloon. Yeah, I showed you that right as I described timescale. Then we have weighted drops. So I did not do this the way that we were supposed to for class. I'm going to go back and update this, and when I do that, I'm going to be updating the video as well. I did this a different way just because I wanted to get the assignment turned in because it is late at this moment. So I'm going to show you kind of how I handled it, and then later today or maybe this weekend I will go back and update it to be the way that we're supposed to do it for class. But for now, and for the sake of time, I'm going to show you how I did it now. Okay, so essentially what we have is when you kill an enemy, it will drop a weapon or a health or possibly nothing. So we kill him and then he dropped nothing. And how we're weighting this is essentially adding everything to one big list, and the things that we want to be more likely to spawn have more items in the list than the things that we don't want to spawn. So in my game manager, in my enemy attributes here, I'm actually going to change this to have its own header just so it's easier to see, because our enemy attributes list is getting pretty long. So we're going to do weighted drops attributes. Okay, that'll make it easier to see in the inspector. Cool. So we have an array, and so we know that an array is set. You can't change it at runtime. So this has all of the items that we could possibly drop. In our inspector here, you can add the items that you want to possibly drop here. So we have our items drop. So we have 4 things in here. We have a health pack item, we have a machine gun pickup item, and a pistol pickup item, as well as a no drop item. So a no drop item is just an empty game object, so that it instantiates the empty game object, but you don't actually see anything dropped. And then we have our weighted drops list. So I'm going to go back in here. So we have a list. This can be updated at runtime, and during the start, we're going to set how many of these items should be in our list. So we have our weights here. So we have 4 integers that are going to say this is how many of these items I want to be included in the list. And the designers can set these in the inspector here. So I'm going to close that and close the weighted drops. Health drop weight I set to 5, machine gun drop weight I set to 3, pistol drop weight I set to 7, and no drop weight I set to 6. So there are going to be 5 healths in that list, 3 machine guns, 7 pistols, and 6 no drops. Okay. And we're adding this on starts. We have a couple of for loops here that say if I is equal to 0 and if I is less than health drop weight, let's add a health to the list. And it does that for each one, for however many times gets set in the inspector. And so that's setting up the list. So that's how we get our kind of weights going on. When the enemy dies, so in our health thing, on kill, so after the animation ends, it's going to call kill. And so if this is an enemy, then we're going to set, so if this is an enemy and the death animation is finished, we are going to drop an item. So on the game manager, we have a method called drop item. and it requires a game object for the spawn location of that item to be passed into it. So on our health, we're just passing the game object go, so the one that we set up here, so our enemy game object essentially. And we are picking a random index of our weighted drops list. So essentially, out of everything that we could possibly drop, we're going to randomly pick one of those. Because there are different numbers of things that we could drop, the more or less likely we're going to get. So our machine gun drops, I think, was 3. So we're less likely to get a machine gun out of, let me see how many everything we had. So we had 5, 3, 7, 6. So 13, 16, 16 plus 4 is 20, so 22. So 22, there are 22 things we could possibly drop. We're going to pick one at random. It's less likely we're going to get a machine gun because there's 3 of those out of the other 19 things that we could possibly pick. So because that number is lower, it's less likely we're going to pick it. But the highest thing is a no drop, so there's 7 of those, so we're more likely to get a no drop versus a machine gun drop. Okay. And then, so we were just picking a number there, and then what we're doing is instantiating whatever we picked at the location of the enemy. Okay. And we're not removing anything from any lists. The list is going to stay the same throughout the whole game. We're just going to constantly be picking what we want to pick out of that list. And the things we want to drop more will have more items in that list than the things we want to drop less. Okay, so that's kind of how I'm doing it. The requirements for the class right now are to use a cumulative density function and a binary search to choose which items will drop. I have done these before, but like I said, for the sake of time, I wanted to just kind of do something simple and just to get it done, because like right now the project is late. So I'm going to go back this week and update this, and I'll be doing a new video on weighted drops as I update that. Cool, so moving right into our pause menu, which I think should be included above. We just have our menu, and the menu allows you to resume the game, go to your options menu, or quit the game. So pausing, so pause, click resume, it resumes. Pause options, it opens an options menu. My options menu is currently blank. I probably will add some game options like volume, sound effects volume, other things like that. I might even include resolution, stuff like that, as we move further into the project. But right now it's just empty. So if you hit go back, it'll close the options menu and reopen the pause menu. And then quit just opens the game over screen and calls the application.quit. But for right now, what I'm going to have that do is also close the pause menu. But yeah, so that ends the game if you quit. If you click quit. Alright, let's see what else we have. I think that's pretty much it for right now. So thank you all so much for watching. Come back to see the weighted randoms video. I'm going to go into a bit more detail on how that works and how you can build one too. So I will be updating that in just a couple of days here. I just need to get that done. But thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye guys.